Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello to another edition of the iGaming Next Breakfast Chat. Unfortunately, Pierre is having some issues with just finding a good spot in Dubai where we can listen to his beautiful voice again. So I'm just taking over as of now. Hopefully, each and every one of you had a good week, had a relaxing week. We're all healthy, will stay healthy. Karolina, you joined as well. How are you? Hello.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very well, thank you. Sunny morning today in London, so enjoying the weather.
Perfect, perfect. Rory, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Just like Karolina, it's very sunny. I've actually put my shorts on, so which is very unusual because it's the first time ever this year that I've done that. So.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds interesting. Sounds good. Interesting. So, um, getting back on track, I just would like to remind each and every one of you that we just keep this as an open session. So we are thrilled to listen to the insights, to what each and every one of the audience has to say. Feel free to join us here on stage. And I'm looking forward to another nice session. This session is recorded, and the iGaming Next might release some snippets of these of this nice chat and the overall chat and talk as well. Hi, Robert. How are you doing? All good, perfect. So as the stage is also joined by Bogdan and Tim, hopefully the both of you are doing good. Bogdan, how are you?
Hello everyone. I'm very fine. Just enjoying the weather. Although there is a bit of a cloudy in here, but sometimes the sun goes out from the clouds, and looking for a nice chat today.
Perfect. Also, Tim joined us on stage as well. Tim, hopefully you're doing good as well.
Morning, Nico. Yes, going well, mate. Back down in Kiev, working with Ukrainian bureaucracy and B2B gaming licenses, which is fun.
I'm pretty sure this is lots of fun. This just sounds like fun as well. So to start us up, I'm usually or always taking the chance to just wrap up what has happened within the last week. I'd like to take that chance again, just to make us all feel a little bit comfortable with the upcoming or what has happened within the last week since the last wrap up. So a personal recommendation from my end. So each and every one of you who already has Netflix, there is the series Money Explained, and the episode 4 is dealing with gambling. So our all beloved topic as well. William Hill has initiated the Colombia or the Latin America expansion with the Colombia launch. FanDuel signed an exclusive odds deal with the Associated Press within the last week. Then Canada is looking forward to single event betting, as this bill has passed the second Senate reading already. If you're not familiar with how this actually works with respect to a bill is forwarded to the Senate, then the first bill, the second bill is signed by the Senate, then it's going into law. There is a quite interesting overview published by kmigaming.com for the Florida sports betting breakdown, how this actually works. So this is for sure worth the read, and then we kind of can estimate how long it will take Canada to actually open up for single betting events. Getting to the US, So Florida, which we already touched on last week, the gaming compact has now signed into law by the governor already. Then Connecticut, the iGaming bill has passed the state senate as well. So we're looking forward to another state actually opening up for sports betting. If you're also not familiar with how big Connecticut actually is, or the GDP, the GDP is roughly, just let me look this up 1 second. It's roughly half of the size of New Jersey, or 1/4 of the size of Florida with respect to GDP. So with opening up Connecticut, we will also see another big state opening up for the sports betting industry.
Nico, I was about to say, I think you're about to touch on it. Tennessee, they just recorded a 1 billion, just past the 1 billion market in terms of sports betting, haven't they?
Exactly. They have just passed the totally betting handle surpasses the 1 billion this April. This is another thing, but thanks, Rory, for already bringing this up. And we also see big numbers from Colorado, as the betting brings just for the month of April, roughly 150 million. And the overall debut year hits $2.3 billion, which are also quite astonishing numbers as well. Let's hand over to the M&A. What happened within the M&A space? So the EEG, the Esports Entertainment Group, has acquired Betard for 16 million in cash, and for the next 2 years they agreed on 12% of the gaming revenue. So the overall price for the Betard company would roughly be around 50 million. 40 to 50 million, depending on the gaming revenue. Then we have seen Playtech agree to sell the final to the financial trading business for $210 million as well. So these might still sound like small numbers if you just take into account that Amazon just bought MGA for billions of dollars. But this just indicates that our gaming industry is also very strong on the M&A side as well. Handing over to regulation and or legal, Betsson has secured a Greek gaming license to actually operate in Greece as well, finally. And another great news, or big news, not great, big news, which we have seen from the UK based on a report. Lords reported that due to stronger regulation in the UK, this would lower the revenues, which the big operators might gain, of roughly £1 billion per year. And this is based on limiting the spins, limiting the stakes, limiting the overall possibilities of gaining revenue in the gambling area in the UK as well. So, Karolina, any news from your end?
No, I'm as usual, totally casually unprepared and just here, to moderate and chime in.
I think.
Good morning, guys. Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you just perfect, Pierre. We can hear you just perfect. Thank you.
That's brilliant. So I'm standing here in the middle of the Dubai Mall, trying to find the internet. So I'm staying in a in a hotel that is marketed towards digital nomads, but the internet connection is not strong enough to support the clubhouse chat. Go figure. But here we are anyway. So good morning to you guys. Hope you are all well. And I wanted to bring up a subject actually that was quite interesting. It doesn't touch gambling perhaps, but something that was quite interesting. I know Karolina, you posted about this the other day. The fact of the proposed takeover of MGM Studios by Amazon. I know it's not directly related to gambling, but it's a quite interesting subject still what's going on in the wider tech world. So
Yeah,
Karolina,
it's
this is
been
quite a
confirmed.
deal.
It's been
Yeah.
confirmed this morning, the transaction. I think it's super interesting because it just gives, I think the MGM Studios, not everybody maybe knows what kind of IP they own, but they do own the James Bond IP, the Handmaid's Tale, and many other ones. So I think it just is a very aggressive move from Amazon against Netflix. And this at the same time, I also read yesterday that Disney is canceling 30 of their cable channels after canceling 20 cable channels last year. So this just shows you that, I mean, the TV battle is over now. It's all about the streaming battle, and those kind of moves are showing you also the kind of money that sits, that you really do need IP to become competitive between those players. And Netflix, when I did the presentation around streaming 2 years ago, Netflix was so far ahead, and it isn't the case anymore. And another interesting bit around this subject was that Netflix announced interest into moving into video games. So, we all know in our industry how important IP is when it comes to game promotion. If you imagine, the battle between Amazon and Netflix on video games and applying some of their crazy IP that they own, it really makes it really shakes things up, I guess.
So the question is still, with this proposed takeover by Amazon, it puts them even more towards a really dominant position in the market, even towards like monopoly vibes in a sense. What do you think in regards to antitrust of this? Will it be straightforward to get this acquisition through, or will there be antitrust issues along the way?
Sorry, can you just repeat the last bit because it cut you out a little bit, at least for me?
Sorry about that, Karolina. I hope you can hear me okay. Just in regards to antitrust, do you think there are any potential issues here with this potential takeover, considering the dominance Amazon have in the market space?
I don't know. I don't know. I probably don't know the market well enough. I just know that on the James Bond IP specifically, they didn't get 100% of it. So the deal outlines that they get 50% of the IP, and then the original owners of the IP can still decide on what can it be used on, and So I can't see slot machines with James Bond very soon. Yeah, antitrust wise, I don't think I would be able to comment. It's definitely a big move, but I just don't know the market well enough.
Yeah, it will be interesting to follow. The little that I have read on this mega merger, let's say, is that there are potential concerns on the horizon. Several policymakers are looking into antitrust issues with Amazon in general, which is not surprising considering, again, their position in the market. And yeah, let's see if this deal will be as straightforward as it seems now in the news, or if there will be any regulatory hurdles along the way. Anything else to add on that point? Perhaps Tim, Bogdan? Not sure if you guys have been able to look into this deal. Anything?
Well, I think the next step would be to see how they turn this deal into not only streaming as itself, but launching other products. So the decision of entering the gaming space, I think it's going to be just small leap from that to move into gambling. They will most likely try to, first of all, explore the social casino and social gambling, and that might change everything around the world. Looking at the coverage of the services they provide. But then I think the next step, and this is something what we should all be kind of aware of, is that entering the gambling space is very, very close, especially that each and every of the services provides the kind of a marketplace, the app shop where you can download what you need, and we just need to see how this will fit with the regulations in the different countries. But definitely in the countries where this is allowed, we could see some interesting moves in the in a very near future. That's at least my perception of this deal, and how to monetize this extreme audience which is ahead of them.
Yeah, it was the oracle Todd Haushalter at Evolution Gaming who laid out this thought experiment in 2019. He asked himself the question, what could disrupt the iGaming industry? And he laid out his thesis, imagine if Amazon starts the Amazon Casino. And he made this argument, like with the insane database they have and the data that they are able to extract from their database. For example, every time you search for the book No Limit Hold'em, you are suggested them to deposit into Amazon Casino or whatnot. And he displayed with the thought that we should be terrified as an industry for the possibility of that prospect. And who knows, it's outside of the box ideas here.
Well, I think this is exactly the point of all these sort of big moves. And whereas probably last year you would say that all these companies are going to stay way clear of gambling, I think the US and what's happening in there and how big of an opportunity it proves to be, it changes the perception. And all of a sudden, especially sports betting and esports betting becomes something everyone is interested in. So I wouldn't rule it out. Whereas, maybe casino gambling, it's a bit down the road, as for everyone, even for US. But at the same time, we all know that everybody who gets their hands on sports betting revenues sooner or later realizes they also want the casino revenues. So
yes, and if I can add something to this, Karolina, yesterday I watched the UEFA Cup final, and it just struck me that looking at the number of penalty kicks, it was, if somebody didn't know, there were 22 penalty kicks in the game. And right now, just imagine the possibilities for the sports books to actually pull off the application available on your TV screen, where you can simply decide if the goal will be scored or not. And that's not a sports book as such, where you need to log in, but you're basically watching the game live, enjoying it, and then you have your remote control in your hand, and there will be just a simple button to press with your remote control and decide if the goal will be scored or not. So that actually shows for these companies great possibilities in the very, very near future, and a great interaction from the customer side, and the ways for the monetization, because I'm very much sure that they would like to go this way. They would like to choose this path.
Yeah, and just to kind of nail down this point as well, with Amazon potentially eyeing this opportunity. Something Todd also mentioned in his speech at IGaming Expo was the fact that if Amazon decides that they are now starting an Amazon casino, he said, do you think that they will plug into our games? Do you think that they will use our software solutions and our suppliers? It's like, no, they will build their own, and they will not break a sweat while they are losing $1 billion the first year just to just to understand the space, so to say. So that begs the question a little bit. I mean, with the movements that we are seeing, and like Karolina mentioned, we're seeing media companies that are eyeing the sports betting opportunities now in the US, NFL signing agreements, and it seems that sports betting is becoming more and more kind of accepted by the mainstream brands and mainstream media organizations. Should we be scared as an industry of these prospects that multi-billion-dollar organizations like Amazon might enter the space?
I just wanted to add to that. I mean, I really don't think it's soon to happen, because there's a lot of philanthropy going on from the big owners and so on, and I think it would perhaps add a negative spin to their perception. But I think in terms of Amazon, we're talking completely sort of virtual reality right now. But if they were going to go in, I would argue that it's not so obvious that they would do their own things, because don't forget that this was one of the big decisions for Amazon owners, whether Amazon should only be producing proprietary products or whether they should also be selling third parties. And majority of their success was based off the fact that they decided to pursue the third party route. So I would think that they would allow third parties, the best selling products. They would just adjust the algorithms to give preferential treatment to Amazon made brands. I mean, again, totally irrelevant to the current reality, but when we're talking big vision, I thought it was worth to mention.
Absolutely, it's a total speculation now, of course. But it could be a contingency to start building a network within Amazon, or in other words, to hopefully have some form of influence as an industry, as a contingency, if this move were to happen at some point. I don't know. Again, it's big speculation, big so on and so forth. But it's interesting to have the discussion. I think it's healthy to think in these terms from time to time, because you never know. Maybe we could be the next Nokia, being taken over by Apple. Great. On that note, guys, I wanted to also bring up something else as well here. So, like I mentioned here previously, I'm in Dubai at the moment, actually visiting the first event since ICE 2020. Very strange feeling, to be honest. And wanted to just kind of open that topic a little bit and say that Emman and the guys of Sigma, they really managed to pull up something really good here. There were loads of people attending, really high level people as well, and we were here, to see how people would react, in their first event after the pandemic started, and it's interesting to note how quickly people go back to normality. Just in kind of a flash in the eye, it's just everything is like normal pretty much. Conference was buzzing, people were networking as they used to do a year and a half ago, and it was the feeling as if nothing had happened, really. So it's quite interesting space here. Although Dubai as a location obviously has its upsides and its downsides, let's say. But from a restriction point of view, they were supposed to follow social distancing guidelines, and there were restrictions in place. But I think this is more smoke and mirrors from the Dubai side. In reality, there was no social distancing whatsoever, and people were kind of crammed up in a way. So just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a report. I don't know if you guys have heard any people who were here who visited this conference as well, or if you have anything to chime in on.
Yeah, Pierre, hi. I'm really interested to understand great to hear that people are back in there again and obviously meeting up and having meetings and dinners and drinks and parties. Obviously in Dubai, you can't go all out and have a gambling type conference. So, I mean, was there much cover on there, or was it like 80% gambling, but there are people under the cover of a Forex or an affiliate conference, but really it was gambling? But how was it different to, say, an ICE or a Sigma in that sense, in terms of the participation?
Yeah, really interesting question, Tim. Super relevant. And so what Sigma did is basically they launched this conference as a generic affiliate conference for this very reason, as you're mentioning, Tim. It's illegal to host any form of gambling or internet gaming related conferences. It's also illegal to host any form of internet gaming or gambling related sponsors or exhibitors. So the moment you mention gaming in your logo, for example, you're not allowed to display that logo. And also exhibitors who wanted to exhibit at the conference, they had to get some form of permit that basically proved that they are not a gambling company. So what happened at the conference is essentially that a lot of gaming related suppliers and operators were intending to exhibit, but they were not allowed to do so, basically. So what you saw at the conference were mainly crypto-related exhibitors and generic affiliates. So nothing related to gambling. However, a lot of the exhibitors still had some form of interest in gambling as well. But I would say that probably about 20% of the delegates were gambling related, and majority were, let's say, on the crypto side of things, more than anything. And on top of that, yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I was going to say, and obviously when you're at ICE, you're walking around, you're going to different stands, and it's very blatant. I mean, was it simply you're having that conference there in Dubai, and then there was a lot of after parties organised between gaming affiliates and suppliers and operators to try and have that, let's call it a little breakout, but away from the main floor under the spotlight? I'm just thinking back to when it was in the one in Macau, when the police actually raided the event, and a few Chinese-facing operators just walked away from their stand. But in the KTV, all the negotiations still continued after hours. So was there that sort of general feeling happening in Dubai there?
Yeah, very much so. So I think so. Basically, the police was actually at the event here as well, and what some of the Sigma guys were saying was that they were actually pretty close to close down the conference, and mainly because it was a bit overcrowded and no social distancing was measured, but they managed to find a way. But in regards to the gambling, yes, they did also put these like tape over some of the logos that were not permitted and stuff like that. But they didn't go to the extent that they did in Macau, where they sent like people infiltrating the conference and like really going hardcore to kind of scare the exhibitors. They didn't go to that extent. It was kind of more nicely managed in a way, where they were very open to kind of. They seem to be very open for business, and it's more kind of a bit smoke and mirrors. In a sense that they know that there is gambling people there. They know that many of the panels, for example, were gambling related, but they kind of let it slide as long as it's not like in your face kind of thing.
Yeah, from my experiences, certainly it's becoming a hotbed of operators who are working sort of across the Southeast Asian, the subcontinental market and African markets. Dubai is where a lot of operators are moving to. I know there's one massive Chinese operator who's moved to Dubai and brought 2,000 staff with them and put them up in an apartment blocks, a bit like the Emirates Towers. So it's certainly becoming a hotbed there. And I think in Dubai, as long as you don't blatantly do it on the beach in front of the stars, and you're doing it behind closed doors, Dubai is liberal enough to allow that to happen. But when you go out and really do it publicly without concern, without let's call it worry about who can see it, that's when they'll step in and crack down. And I don't think you want to be cracked down on in Dubai in that sense.
I think, to be honest as well, that was an affiliate conference, and you can definitely hide it to a certain extent in terms of what you're doing and have conversations. And it's a really good place for people to be able to meet and have the conversations that they haven't been able to have over the past year. If you're to ask me if it is ever going to become a key place where some of the large corporates actually generally try and attend and exhibit, I still think, given the rise of corporate and social responsibility in gaming, most people try and shy away from being hugely visible at it, while also just attending and taking meetings kind of in their hotel, etc., etc., because it is a great kind of center place for people from the US or Europe kind of catching up with kind of their Asian or their Southeast Asian counterparts.
Yeah, I would disagree with that actually. I think that, you know, in Dubai, it's such a massive hotbed right now for, like Tim mentioned, investors moving their holding companies here, organizations moving over to Dubai. It's also geographically extremely well located to connect Europe with Asia, with Africa, and I've been thinking about this as well, Fiona, in the sense of like the on the ESG side and so on and so forth. I think you'll see an effect of it, but when it comes down to it, I do think that considering how much legacy is up in the air right now, and like what's going to happen with ICE, what's going to happen with the other conferences, you know, I heard a rumor now, by the way, that Novomatic is actually pulling out from ICE. Right, so the biggest exhibitor of ICE is actually pulling out, and that can lead to a quite dangerous snowball effect for ICE, where all of a sudden there can be room for a new conference popping up, a new ICE, let's say, and Dubai could, in my opinion, if they legalize, and it seems that it's just a matter of time. It might take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but it would seem to me that it could actually be the location for the next mega expo, and consider as well that there is like one of the biggest expo spaces in the world is here as well. Infrastructure is here, like connections, all these type of things. So yes, what is talking against them is on the ESG side, and that is absolutely a valid point. But there is just so much business to be done here that I think there's I think it's going to be hard to go against that, let's say. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that people will definitely continue going there. I actually think that Novomatic pulling out of ICE was bound to happen, and I think that we'll see the footprint of ICE change and become smaller. I mean, the size of those Novomatic stands was just crazy. It had gotten to a point where people were just be like, okay, we need to be bigger than the next guy. And I think it wouldn't be a bad thing if ICE was to become smaller and stands was become smaller and people focus more on really getting some meaningful meetings and business done there, as opposed to having the biggest and best stand, which had become a little bit over the last couple of years. I mean, I'd love if they went back to Earl's Court so we didn't need to walk 5 miles every day. But I definitely agree that Dubai is a great place for meeting because of the location, etc., etc. I just think in terms of how the show would go in terms of people exhibiting, it might be slightly different. But absolutely, it's a great place for people to meet geographically. And as you say, there are so many investment companies there itself. I'm just thinking of the traditional exhibitors at our conferences. But again, I think it's a great time for conferences to change.
Yeah, and
Interesting. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tim, go ahead.
Okay.
Tim, go ahead,
Yeah, I was
and
just going to
then
say,
Rory after that.
Earl's Court, I remember the days, but I enjoy ICE because I get my 10,000, if not 30,000 steps, and it's good for the weight loss program.
30,000 a day, Tim, over 6 days is a lot, though.
It's good for you, though, Fiona. It's good. I enjoy it. But I think there's an interesting one here that if we're talking in London, you're going to get everyone from all over the world going there. The Americans, your regulated European markets. Middle East is a bit more, let's call it pre-regulated markets. This is your Southeast Asian ones where they're not that tier one corporate organisation. They don't always like the spotlight. And your subcontinental markets and your African markets, I think this is going back to what it was like 10 years ago when there was no country licenses in place. So
Absolutely.
Maybe you're going to have a shift where you've got ICE on one side for your regulated, clean, white markets, and then
Agreed.
Dubai for your let's meet for coffee and have mint tea.
No, I agree. I think that's absolutely the case.
Yeah.
And I think it makes sense. And I actually think that some people would prefer that because sometimes the blurring and the merging of the lines between those can be difficult. And actually, if you're able to go with one hat on to one conference and know that you're dealing with pre-regulated and slightly different styles of businesses, then going to your more kind of regulated super corporates, it helps a lot actually, and differentiating them, I think, is a good thing.
Thank you, Fiona. Rory, you wanted to chime in here as well. And by the way, for anyone who kind of wants to talk or has something to say, you can kind of wiggle your mic a bit, and then I will notice that, and I will give you time as well to chime in as well. So, Rory, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I was just touching on what Fiona was saying. I think a lot of people have realised that they've either probably been spending extortionate amounts of money at ICE over the last couple of years because it's been going so well, and we haven't really experienced the pandemic that we have. So I think a lot of people are reassessing this and re-looking at their stands and re-looking at where the money's being spent. So I think that will certainly have an impact on the show to some regard. And I also think with these new markets, it's got to start somewhere, right? So, I remember when we were launching into new markets, we weren't necessarily going full gung ho in terms of what we were doing, and you'd certainly have people there who were part of massive organisations, but weren't really advertising that they were there, because you got that inquisitive aspect, haven't you? That everyone just wants to scope it out. So I do think Dubai is certainly has always been one of those places that everyone wants to go to and wants to sort of see, but obviously with the cultural side of things, it's always been prohibited. So, but I do think there's it's one of the last places that everyone's wants to get their teeth into. So I'd say watch this space for Dubai, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting to hear, Rory, obviously coming from Clarion and so on and so forth. Bogdan, you wanted to chime in as well?
Yeah, just one comment from my side is it's also worth to mention that price for ICE increase every year. So after COVID and after dealing with all the organization plus daily business, I think many companies realize that actually being unable to participate in ICE and the business still moving on kind of show them something that perhaps that's a good time for some savings and some wake-up call for the big conference organizers to actually consider going a bit down with the price. Of course, this is not the most important factor, but it become. I mean, if you have your stand year after year, you simply see this, and of course, it's nice to have a great big stand, but you need to simply put everything into an Excel and ask yourself if it's worth it. So I definitely think that new spaces, new conferences will arise on the horizon. Maybe not to replace ICE, but to be at least competitive with ICE.
Exactly, and this is kind of the rumor that is flying around now, is that Novomatic is leaving with the strategy to kind of go together with some of the other tier one suppliers to start their own conference, basically. And I haven't been in the industry or that side of the industry long enough, but what I heard is that there used to be a conference that was run by some of the suppliers previously that was eventually acquired by Clarion. I don't know, Rory, if you know about this or anyone else can detail that more.
I think you're talking about the what was it called? It was there used to be two shows side by side, which was the European Amusement Trades Association. So long ago, I can't remember, but I think it was the two.
It was the one that used to be in like Nottingham or Liverpool or somewhere like that, wasn't it? It was a huge,
like
huge.
Yeah.
It's like 15 plus years ago, I think.
Yeah, but it was on the amusement side basically.
It was all the land-based terminals, which would make sense if Novomatic is looking to do something with partners where they want to be able to showcase a lot of the land-based stuff, because ultimately that's the only reason they have such a huge footprint at these conference at ICE in particular.
Yes, ATEI. I've just been informed it was called. So thank you, Neil, for that. Yes, it was. It was a very old business, been going around for years. So that's when ICE was probably launched, I'd say, when the acquisition helped, or when the two went head to head, and that's when ICE was thinking about moving to Excel after outgrowing its welcome at Earl's Court. So So yeah, I mean it's interesting because these organisations, Merca. I don't want to say any figures on the phone, but they spent a lot of money at ICE, and with ESG around the corner as well. Is it sustainable to be sending 2,000 people over to for a 4-day event? I don't know. It's probably something they're gonna have to
I mean,
rethink and have a look at.
even when you look at the guys like microgaming who aren't land based, obviously they used to book out the entire boat, plus have that huge stand, plus have another, I think, an additional 150 hotel rooms on top of that boat. So when you look at those budgets, it's pretty insane. Now, obviously they can afford it, but they're probably thinking more on the sustainability and what they can do better with that money.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's all about everyone's probably reset their marketing budgets now, and they still want to. They've all been doing well, but they still want to try and connect. So I think it's just a different proposition that needs to be sold to people. I think it's still relevant of having some brand exposure, stand space, but maybe not on the scale that we've seen before.
Yeah, Liesbeth, what about you? You represent Aspire Global, the major operator and supplier to the industry, and I'm not sure if you guys are exhibiting at ICE, but how do you view these movements from an Aspire Global perspective?
Hi everyone. Yes, going forward, I think there are many lessons that we can take from the last 2 years, more or less. Seeing that we have sent almost 0 people traveling everywhere, and we're still being able to catch up with all the different evolvements and making deals online, all these things. So I definitely foresee more of a hybrid version, sending less people to the actual conference, but in a way making it more digital and more people can actually participate. So
Liesbeth,
yes.
do you think, just from your side, would you, and this is just an inquisitive conference organizer side of things, do you think, because we all used to have the headache where we'd see competitors going to, or sorry, exhibitors going to every single show under the sun, but do you think that's going to be now pulled back and people are going to be more strategic where they're going? Are there going to be, obviously, like you say, less people going to these events, but is that also going to be including, say, brands going to be less exposure at all the events around, because the iGaming space has tons of exhibitions and shows that are going on. Do you think that, would we like to see that? So in terms of exhibiting space?
Yeah, we have been more innovative to be able to attend conference over the last year, like having this platform and other platforms. It will always be beneficial for companies to meet in person. I think that's just this one face-to-face contact that businesses need. But there will be a change, and let's see how it will evolve. Like the next ICE, will there be as many people or like far less? But it doesn't mean that it will be bad for the event organizers, because they can involve more digital ways and include even more people, like having a more digital experience and have more of these kind of chats on Clubhouse and all the forums we have started to really get used to in our system.
Yeah, I think also like an interesting observation through coming to the event here in Dubai is the fact that, now during the last year, we have focused on networking digitally. We have gotten to know each other digitally, gotten to know new people, set up new relationships, and so on and so forth. And that works to a certain extent, but it's obviously at the events where you solidify those friendships and so on and so forth. And that has not changed. That's the feeling I got from being here. So I think you can set up a great network digitally, but the meeting in person is like the icing on the cake, and that is definitely not going to change. But I think what you guys are mentioning as well is it will be much more focused as we go forward, because not every man and his dog needs to go to ICE anymore. And I think that is going to be the difference, that rather than having these 30,000 people events, it might be more focused into niches instead. So you have events that are targeting a specific market, or you have events that are targeting a segment of the industry, targeting investors, targeting C-levels, and targeting market managers or different markets and so forth. I have a hard time seeing that ICE has a bright future, if I'm going to be honest.
I think as well, you've got to look at guys like SBC who are trying to launch Barcelona this year, for example, the week before IGB, which is the week before G2E. And as someone who generally does 12 to 14 conferences a year pre this, that's obviously going to be cut, because the ones that we do want to do, Joe, when you're director of sales or C-level, are going to be the ones that are more valuable, and not that we do everyone for fear that one extra person's going to be there. I think SBC are really going to struggle launching this new show in Barcelona, personally.
So, Fiona, as a head of sales, I mean, you're talking about those back-to-back events.
Yeah, I mean, it's
What
really
would
difficult.
constitute you going to one? Would it be because it's a new launch, or would it be because of the content? Would it be because
I
of
mean, for me, I'll do
reputation?
IGB. For me, it'll be IGB and G2E. They're established conferences. I've spoken to my peers and I've spoken to my clients. I've had a discussion with who's going to where. IGB is hugely established. It's personally my favorite show. G2E is hugely established for the US market, and is a different kind of level of person in terms of the US guys all being there, and with it being super important, it's there. I think it's very difficult to for SBC when in the same way you've got EGR Power 50 at the beginning of September, plus then this run into IGB and G2E, then Sigma, then WGS in Barcelona. It's as though people are trying to cram everything in the one. Plus, obviously, we've got iGaming next, which is the key one that we all know. But do you know what I mean? I find it really difficult to put time aside, and bearing in mind when you're out of the office at these conferences, you don't get to do your daily job. So you come back from them and you end up working 18+ hour days when you get back, because you've got still have 25 contracts to resolve and to continue going through. So I think that people will just be smarter about what we go to. And even some of the events, I mean, Pierre, the event that you had kind of right before this, when we were talking in the Sybil Club in Valletta, I think there'll be a rise of these more niche 50, 75 people, 100 people in a nice area, having some good kind of very focused panels, and then a networking after that. And it's kind of director and head of and above and C-level and above, and to be really able to have conversations and not just people who want to go because they're there on a jolly for work. And there has been a huge increase in that over the past 5 years.
You almost forgot about that there, Fiona, when you listen to your
Never,
conferences.
never.
Good to hear. Yeah, interesting. Like I said, the dynamics are really shifting right now. There's every time, like every usual year, you go into an event, you go into a year, and you kind of start planning which events you're going to go to, and there is this feeling that it's really easy to predict how the events will turn out. You know that ICE is always going to be ICE. You know that Sigma is always going to be Sigma, and Power 50 is going to be Power 50, and it's really easy generally in a general year to plan the events. But this is, I think, what you mentioned now, Fiona, is the fact that it's just very, very difficult right now to know how the events will turn out. And I think what you mentioned around SBC trying to start a new major kind of global conference when it's the week before Amsterdam, which people are kind of gathering around what it seems like right now and saying that, okay, everyone is going to go to Amsterdam. So what's going to happen to Barcelona? If we rewind 1 year back, when SBC launched Barcelona, there was very much a feeling that event was going to be really interesting. And there was a lot of buzz around it, and they were doing really well with exhibition sales and stuff like that. But you can just see how the dynamics are now shifting all of a sudden, and that event is now a little bit out of place. So as an organizer, from our point of view, we always have to be very, very careful in understanding these dynamics to be able to place the event in the right time, with the right purpose, and so on and so forth, and really be on top of things. And even from a supplier point of view, also really important to stay on top of these dynamics and try to predict which events will, in the end of the day, bring value, because things are really changing now. So it's really important to stay on top of this and not just book events based on what legacy there is within them, because it might turn out that they will be opposite of what you imagine if you do think about what happened in the past. Liesbeth, I saw you were eager to speak as well.
Yes, I thought to add from an environment point, I think these big expos are, of course, very environmental unfriendly. You set everything up for like 2-3 days and tear it down again, and it's all waste. and also sending hundreds of people on flights. It's not environment friendly at all, especially seeing people and companies have set themselves more and more tangible targets towards becoming carbon neutral, or at least reducing their carbon footprint. So not to come across as greenwashing, like having these goals and then sending like half of the people on conferences all the time, that's going to affect decision making.
Absolutely, ESG becoming more and more important, of course, and like I said, even from our point of view as an organizer, this is absolutely a concern that we need to think about as well. Is how we incorporate ESG and environmentally and sustainability into the conferences. I have another question, just to if anyone, I don't know if anyone has anything more to chime in on this topic, because otherwise I have the last question of today. I'll give it 5 seconds if anyone else to chime in. Okay, that's 3 seconds. I think that's enough. I have a question actually for the panel here. I'm a bit curious in general, and sometimes I don't have perfect information here. But Bethard, which is acquired by Esports Entertainment Group, which is an organization that is a bit new to me, and it comes as a bit of a surprise that an esports organization, at least by the sound of the name, would acquire an operator. So I wanted to ask the panel: does anyone know kind of what is the purpose of Esports Entertainment Group? What are they looking to do? What are the targets? Do you know anything about them, or anything to chime in regard to that deal?
I only know that they bought Argyle Entertainment Group, which was a sportsbook operator led by one of my friends. So it's not their first acquisition, this one.
I've seen so as well. I saw that in the press release it was mentioned something about Super Nation as well, which was surprising to me because I thought that they did not have an owner. But Tim?
Yeah, I do know that EEG bought an operator, Maltese regulated but Estonian operated group for about 30 million, I think 4 to 5 months ago. So that one bought, and they seem to be buying up a lot of things and a lot of operators, and just quietly moving along and acquiring.
See, I don't know if it's my internet, but I cannot hear Tim at the moment. So Nico, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can't hear Tim, and he just left, but I'm pretty sure he will be back within a couple of seconds.
Okay. Some internet issues on Tim's behalf. So, so by the sound of a bit of the silence of the panel, it could be the case that we're seeing the rise and the emergence of a new potential top player of the industry, Esports Entertainment Group. Could be worth to do a little bit research on what they're up to. Could be a bit interesting to see a little bit from what angle they are entering the industry. Is there a particular esports angle here, or are they just trying to enter the market?
I know they've just done a new partnership with the NBA Cavaliers. That's for sure. It was announced I think the other day. So I think they are obviously stepping into the space more and more, and I think we'll just see them gain more dominant share. And as esports becomes more gambling focused, I think they'll certainly be one of those players that we need to watch out for.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Alex, would you like to chime in?
Sorry, I'll just chime in. Yeah, I mean, they've had their esports facing bookmaker VIE.gg or VIE.bet for a while now. I think they've had it for about 3 or 4 years. So I think that was one of their first main bits of esports business. So that I think that's their sort of that was their main revenue driver, and now they're sort of really pushing into acquisitions. They've also built an esports app where people can predict what's going to happen in a tournament, for example. I think that's free to play at the moment. And I think the partnership with the Cavaliers is to push. They've got an NBA 2K league, which is quite popular in America. and I think they're going to try and do some sort of score prediction with those with that company. But yeah, they seem to be buying up a lot of a lot of companies in the esports space at the moment. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do.
Because it seems a bit contradicting in a way that they are becoming an iGaming operator as well as on the esports side. It sounds almost like it's a similar service to PandaScore that they offer on the esports side. Is that true? Or
no, I don't think they're becoming a supplier at all. I think they're going to be mainly just betting focused as like a B2C. I don't think they're doing any B2B stuff at the moment. Yeah, not from what I've seen anyway.
All right, fair enough. And Tim, you dropped out there a bit, but you came back here. Was there anything else you wanted to add to your point?
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't know when you missed out, but I know they acquired an operator based out of Estonia with an MJ license, 4 brands I think they had for about 30 million euros a couple of months back. So yeah, they do seem to be rapidly acquiring on the B2C side of things. I don't think they're that. They do have esports in their vertical, but they're not just a solely esports operation. And as I said before, as Martin Michel always says, all roads do lead to casino. So I'm sure they're acquiring everything, and it may be under the influence of an esports direction, but casino is where the money's made.
Yes, Fiona, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say, I think that, I mean, they've been around since about, I think, 2015, so they've definitely been just building up slowly and steadily. But my guess is that they've gotten a huge influx of money and are now starting to ramp up and build some guys. But I'm with Tim. If they're just planning on doing esports and sports, they're not going to make a huge amount of money because they still need their casino.
Interesting. Definitely an organization worth to keep an eye on, in other words, and study up on more. So I think this leads us a little bit to the end of the hour here today of the iGaming X Breakfast chat. I'm happy that I managed to quickly take myself to the Dubai Mall here to get myself some internet to join in the conversation today. It's been super interesting. I'd like to hear Nico and then Karolina just kind of summarizing the discussion a little bit today, or anything more to add on you guys' end. So Nico, feel free to start.
So just touching down on what Tim just said, I'm pretty sure EEG, they bought sportnation.com, and to find us, they are specifically looking for licenses. So the first press release, the first press statement on the Bethard acquisition was that they are looking forward to use the Swedish license which Bethard holds. So we can kind of imagine that they are specifically looking to explore fully licensed markets. Yes.
All I can add is that I am interviewing Thomas Rossander on Monday from Luxbox, which is an esport betting platform. So I will add this into the agenda to try to get his thoughts around this. Maybe he can provide some insight. So yeah, from my side, this, and I think it's a very interesting discussion where we touch on so many different subjects. I wanted to get maybe Tim to wrap up if he's still here, because we've seen, I don't think he is here, but we've seen a really interesting post from him on LinkedIn around Bitcoin and the events that unfolded last week. So I just wanted to see if he wanted to add it as the end, but he is not here. Pierre, do you want to just? Oh, he is here. Tim, can we ask you to lay down that post and your thoughts from the post for everyone?
Sorry, my internet's really crappy. What's the question, Karolina?
I was just saying if you can maybe communicate, the information you've put in your super interesting post on LinkedIn, because I find it as a great wrap to the conversation when we touch on all different kind of trendy things.
Okay, yes, we'll do, for sure.
We mean now, Tim.
Oh, you mean now? Sorry, my internet's really, really bad here. I've got a poor connection. You mean on the Bitcoin price?
Indeed.
Okay,
Exactly,
let me
Tim.
open
Exactly.
up. Let me open up my LinkedIn quickly. The main issue was here. You've had an asset which has dropped by 40% and wiped out $1.02 trillion or billion dollars worth of money. And after all that, the resilience has shown through. There was no bank bailout. So there was the Fed didn't need to step in. No firm went under. DeFi didn't break. There was no daisy chains of collateral losses. There was no collateral pressure. Stable coins remained stable. The few exchanges went down for an hour or two. No protocol failed. No firms needed rapid funding. No one had open-ended losses. The system didn't break. It offered zero systemic risk to the broader financial world. Spectators lost money and that's it. This is what I first saw back in 2012, a new anti-fragile financial system that doesn't break into times of stress, where ownership of assets is clear and losses are not mutualized to taxpayers. It's a big 2 weeks for crypto and for the future financial system. And just to that point, this is the great thing where the governments didn't have to come in and bail out RBS or any of those big banks because they were too big to fail. Something went down and the financial backbone of a decentralized blockchain did not break, which is it's wonderful news for crypto. And a correction is a good thing for any market. So, yeah, a good week in crypto.
So now let me use a fun feature of Clubhouse, because I'm a moderator, so I can see everyone that raised their hand. So can I ask everyone that did not understand the whole depth of this situation and cons, raise your hand, please. Well, Tim, we have a very educated audience here because nobody's raising the hand, meaning that it was clear for everyone. I might be pinging you to explain some of these phrases to me because it did sound super complex.
Yeah, it was a good copy and paste, Karolina, basically.
Let's put it in simpler terms, okay? Bitcoin had a shitty month, and outside of the crypto conference here in Dubai, there was a Bitcoin branded Lamborghini, and it was not for sale. So that is a good sign, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, guys. So shall we wrap up for today? It's been a fantastic session. Thank you guys for joining us today at the iGaming Next Breakfast Chat. Always a pleasure. I'm really happy I managed to take myself and find some good internet here to join. Thanks for the great insights. And just wanted to remind everyone that the session has been recorded today. And we do publish these sessions through our iGaming Next YouTube and Twitter and all the other channels that we have, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on and so forth. So feel free to check that out once it's being launched. And other than that, feel free to join the iGaming Next Club. You do that by clicking the little green house on top and just by clicking join. If you do that, then you'll be notified every time we open a room. And you can also open your own rooms. That's pretty cool. So yeah, with that said, thank you guys again. Wish you a great Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, and rest of the week. And we see you again next week. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.